is a white male in his 50s found this morning by a jogger. Wife, kids, and a nanny will sleep in an apartment. His name is Felix Raw.
Like the photographer?
Beats me. His wife's upstairs. You can ask her if he takes pictures.
Look, we got this. Can you give us a hand with the crowd?
Yeah, you got it. Eddie, hey. All right, everybody just back it up.
Please.
Hey, you good? I'm good. Go. Hey, police, stop. Eddie. He's hit. Go, bust. Hey. 213 officer down, comes just fired. Folks, sit down.
You okay?
We lost a guy today.
Oh, man, who?
Michaels.
Michaels? Damn. You gonna be okay?
3 nines and Joker's wild. 4 of a kind. Must be my lucky night.
Stop or I will fire! I said stop or I will fire! Call for backup.
Show me your hands! Show me your hands!
Okay, what the hell's going on? I'm dead.
Good. The room is clear.
What do you think's in there?
Let's say you open it up, stick your head in, and take a gander.
So that was the theatrical and actor Mark McKinnon, who is our guest on the show today, and we are so excited to have him here. Thank you, Coach, for being here. My name is Candy, and
I'm honored to be here.
Yes, awesome. I am Candy B, and I am the founder of Poestry Arts and Entertainment, LLC, and the creator of Poestry Where Creativity Speaks, the podcast. And I started the podcast to provide a platform for local DMV-based artists to come and share their story, to connect with their fans, and to inspire others to do the same. And I am so excited to be here with my uber talented co-host, Kennard Cherry, and my handsome and talented nephew, Isaiah Freeman. Welcome, guys. Welcome, everyone, to the show. Mark, thank you so much for being here. There's so many ways to go to start this off. You had planned to pursue a career in football, but you wound up pursuing acting after you got the lead in your high school play. Is that correct?
That is correct. Yes, that is my story.
Yeah, which play was it?
It was a play called Little Woman. Ironically, I did not play a woman. I played the love interest of one of the main characters there. And the story behind that, I wasn't even really interested in acting at that time. I took a drama course as an elective, and someone who I was dating at the time was interested in the play. So I went there to support her, just to go to the auditions. And the director came out and was like, "Hey, Mark, we need some male presence." I said, well, don't look at me. You know, and she said, "No, I think you would be really great in this play. You should do it." I was like, "I never really acted before. I'm going to be great in this play." And she said, just try out. So I try out, and a few days later, I found out I booked the role. It was like one of the lead roles. But that's not what made me fall in love with acting. What made me fall in love with it, because I was an athlete at the time, and I really didn't have the time for it, but I made the time for it. So when I actually did the play, a lot of the athletes came out. Also, there wasn't that many people of color who was a part of the drama department in school at that time. And so once we finished that season of the show, that following season, so many African Americans and athletes came out to audition for the plays. So when I saw the social change that came from me doing something like that, I was like, wow, like this is pretty deep, like, and so that's what made me really want to pursue it. I saw the change that acting can actually give into life, into how we make decisions.
Wow, that's great. So when you decided to pursue acting, how did your parents take it? Because they were expecting you to do football. So how did they react?
Well, my mom, she was supportive. It didn't really matter what I did as long as she knew I put myself into it and she knew I was going to be invested. She supported it. So it was never a why are you leaving football or why are you focused on acting? Like, she was always supportive. She's faith-based. She's very spiritual. So if anything, she would hear from God to confirm a lot of the decisions that I was making. So yeah, I definitely had that support from her that really led to me, make some really good strides in my career.
That's cool. So did you how did you choose Howard as where you were going to go to college to pursue it?
Well, Howard at first, honestly, wasn't my first choice. I had a couple of football scholarships, so I went on a lot of tours and scouts to see what football school I was going to go to. But most of the football programs, they either didn't have acting major for me to go into, or if they did, it was like Shakespearean. I knew that wasn't the route I wanted to go. I found out that Howard had this amazing theater arts program. And I saw they had a football team. I said, you know what? I'm going to go to Howard. My mom worked there, so tuition was paid for. So whether I got the scholarship or not, I knew I was going to be covered. So I ended up not getting a scholarship from them because at that time when I decided to go to Howard, they already passed that season of offering the scholarships. I ended up, going there, enrolled, but of course my tuition was paid for through my mom's working at Howard. And I was like, you know what, I'm gonna make this happen. But when I got to the audition to be a part of the theater arts program, as soon as I walked in, it was like, Mark, we already know you play football. I said, that's great. And they was like, well, no, athletes can't be a part of our program. I said, They was like, if you want to audition today to be a part of our program, you're gonna have to, give up football. So right there in that moment, I had to make a life decision. But I said, you know what? I'm just gonna go with the flow. I'm gonna tell them, yeah, I'll give up football. But in the back of my mind, I was like, yeah, I'm still gonna go out there and make it happen. And they was even telling me, they was like, never in the history of the program has someone successfully made it through doing the theater arts program and was an athlete. So I said, you know what? In the back of my mind, I'm gonna be the first. I'm gonna make it happen. So I ended up auditioning for the program, ended up getting accepted into the theater arts program. Ended up walking onto the football team, and literally maybe within the first 2 weeks, we had a 5 a.m. Practice for the football team, and that practice went really bad. So what does the coach say? I'll see you back tonight at 6 o'clock. And guess what? I already had a rehearsal scheduled for 6 o'clock for one of the shows I was in. So I knew right then and there, I said, I see what they mean. Decision. So literally that was the moment where I realized, I was like, you know what? I'm going to have to give up my football route and just go ahead and trust God and go into acting, because this is what I had peace about. This was the direction I felt like I was supposed to go, and I'm grateful I did it. But it led to me having a dream role of wanting to be, maybe one day having an NFL player role or a college football player role in a movie, so I can have the best of both worlds. So that is the goal where I'm trying to strive for.
That's amazing. I love the fact that you were really going to try to make it work. Didn't happen, but it obviously worked out.
Did not happen.
So what did the Howard's program teach you? Like, which acting techniques did you take, and what were your favorites that helped you with your career?
Oh man, Howard introduced us to so many different acting techniques. Their philosophy was, we're going to show you so many different ones, but at the end of the day, it's about what works for your process. So we learned like the Meisner technique, the Strasberg technique. We learned Uta Hagen. We learned like so many other ones as well, but the ones that I tied to the most was the Strasberg and the Meisner technique. Those are the two that I normally use within my own process to help prepare and get my characters where I wanted them to be. Those are the ones that just felt natural. I didn't feel like it was forced. But I'm also not one to be so gung-ho on technique that my work is not real. I add a level of realism to what I'm doing, with respect to the acting technique.
Could you give us a breakdown of both of those techniques? A little bit more about them?
Yeah, so the Meisner acting technique focuses strictly or mostly on listening and responding, being able to literally use your acting based on what you receive right in that moment. So you're able to respond in that moment based on how you feel. So let's say if one of the characters had the word "I hate you," right? Every time we do this scene, I know you're going to come into the scene and say, "I hate you." That doesn't mean I'm going to respond back with my line the same way every single time, because it's about how I feel and how I receive the words of you saying I hate you at that moment. So that's what my was really, really big on, was listening and responding and acting naturally off of that. Strasberg was more like realism, more so, okay, if you're going to play a horseback rider, you need to go ahead and go horseback rider. You need to go ahead and try your best to live that life. You're going to be a doctor, go interview a doctor. You know, it was all about almost in a sense like method acting, where you literally did what you had to do to experience the real life situation of the character that you were playing.
Okay. Now, speaking of which, on your headshot, it says that you're relatable and you're the leader of the troop. Was it?
Mm-hmm.
So how?
That's what it was. Leader of the squad. Yes.
Leader of the squad. Yes. So how did you come up with those terms, and how do you, as with your headshot, how do you come up with your brand?
So your brand is a promise to who you are. It's who you are when you're around your friends, when you're at work, your past. You know, growing up, I always was a leader of my team. When I played football, I was MVP. When I played basketball, I was a team captain. At church, I was one of the leaders with the youth. You know, even as production manager at my church, you know, there's always been some type of leadership position. I run an acting studio. That's leadership position. So I always had a way where I naturally always fell into some type of leadership role. And so I put that into my brand, where even when I book a character on FBI, booked 5 episodes on there, I wasn't just a member of the SWAT team. I was the leader of the SWAT team, you know? So it's like my natural life of what happened led right into the type of roles that I played. Whenever I played any football roles in plays or any short films or anything like that, I was always the team captain, even in those. So that's where the brand of leader of the squad came from.
And so how do you help your students learn what their brand is? What is that process?
Oh yeah, the process is always, it's amazing to see actors receive the philosophy that I have behind knowing your brand and type, because it all starts with who you are. And a lot of people overlook that when they get into acting. They know they're supposed to have a headshot, and they know they're supposed to learn lines and get into class. But before you even get to all of that, you have to be comfortable and confident in who you are and how God has made you, using the features that God has given you with your looks, with your build, using all those things and using it to your advantage to play the type of roles. I always try to ask a client when they first come in, without you even acting, as soon as you walk in the room, what types of roles would people believe that you play? Using myself as an example, I never been a police officer in real life, never been in the military, but because of how I look, how I carry myself, you know, this is where I'm perceived at when I walk into the room. Hence what you saw in the reel. You saw a lot of military, a lot of police officer work. It wasn't that I knew how to act those roles. It was more like your brand and type fit what that was. So that's what I really try to get actors to own, and what I try to get them to understand. And then they got to effectively market where it's consistent. As soon as they see your headshot, they should already know these are the type of roles you fit. This is the type of energy you give off, right? And then from there, you see your reel, you know, you do a scene or a monologue, and it's all consistent. Now, a lot of people may say, well, you know what? I don't want to be typecast, you know, but I'm not saying you have to stay typecast. You have to use what you got to get what you want. So you may start there to try to get yourself an agent, to try to get yourself some work. And then once you build a body of work, now you're able to expand and do stuff outside of type.
So what is the key to not getting typecast? Because I have a good friend of mine that's actually about to relocate to California, I believe, to pursue acting. And I hope he's on here because he had a lot of good questions. But one of the things is how do you not get typecast? Meaning, if you play a villain in one movie so well that people don't even know your real name, they just know you as that villain. How do you? I mean, I understand that has to do with acting range, but how do you not get yourself typecast into the point where any movie that you're in, they can't see nobody but that person?
Right. Well, honestly, it has to start off with you trying different things on your own and knowing whether it's in class or with a private coach, the type of roles you can fit outside of that type. again, that person may be always getting the villain. One, they probably have a look that makes them believable as a villain, right? So if that's the look you have, more than likely you're always going to get something around that. However, as you start to practice scenes or do reels and do work outside of that type, when somebody sees that, then they may say, you know what, this person actually could do that. Using myself as a prime example again, I didn't grow up in the streets. I grew up in the suburbs, very protected neighborhood and area. You know, so whenever I used to try to go out for The Wire or try to go out for Power, no matter how good I could have done in those auditions, they weren't calling me in because they wasn't looking for my type when it came to this type of roles that would fit in the streets. And so I had to own that, right? There's some people who have that look. Some people who don't have that big of a background in acting, yet they still got those roles. Why? Because it's more about your look than it is. So I would say ride that type until you do secure a few major level jobs, like a guest star role or a major supporting role or lead role in a big budget film. Because once you get that, now agents and managers can trust that that's what you can do. You have that product, you have that marketing. Now we can try you against something else. Because once I finished doing I did literally about 11 different episodes playing a cop or a military role. Now that I have a body of work of a cop military, I don't have to play that type anymore. A few months ago, I got to audition as a series regular as a Russian spy. You know, but happened to have a football background. He was an ex-college football player who happened to get into some trouble, you know, stuff. But the whole point was, the key thing was what? Ex-football player. You know, so your brand, who you are, is always going to somewhat be in there. A lot of times, even when an actor is doing good in a movie or a TV show, we'll still be like, I don't believe it. It's probably because they don't look like they can play that type. So I always ask the question, you ever see bad acting on TV? All the time. But how did that person get the role? That person looks like the lawyer or looks like the military person. They look like what they're playing. So your looks, and this is more so for film and TV, your looks have more to do with how you're going to make it in the business. I'm not talking about whether you look good or not. I'm talking about what is your look. Whatever your look is, using Michael K. Williams, for example. He's been on The Wire. He's been on Boardwalk Empire. He's an actor that has the big scar on his face, dark-skinned guy. What types of roles is he normally playing?
Bad guys.
Yeah, because of how he looks. And he's one of the nicest people I got to meet him one time that you would ever meet. However, because of that life star, that's the type of roles he's going to play. Right? Look at The Rock. The Rock is 6'5", all muscles. What is he normally doing in his movies?
It's a superhero.
Superhero jumping out of helicopter.
Action. Yeah.
He want to destroy buildings. Why? Because that's how he's built. You know, so who you are, how God has made you, is that first step to understanding the direction you need to go with your acting career.
I love what you said about use what you have to get what you want. That's I love that. So how did you go from, so you graduated Howard and you started putting yourself out there to act. How did you go from struggling actor or aspiring actor to someone who now has an agent?
Oh, wow. It took years of trial and error, so many years. When I first got out of college, you know, that's heavy theater training. And I went to New York, my first year of auditioning. Everyone kept telling me too much, too big, too much, too big. And I'm like, what are they talking about? Like, I just took 4 years of training. I know how to get into my character. I'm using my Meisner technique, my Strasberg technique. I'm using all these techniques to really get into these characters. And I'm feeling good in the room. But they kept telling me, oh, too much, too big. You need to take on-camera classes. I'm like, I just did 4 years of acting classes. But at that time, I didn't understand there's a difference between acting on camera and acting on stage. I thought it was all one and the same. As long as you get in the character, you're good. But there's a different format. There's a different technique that you have to use for either one of them, right? So then I came across a video on YouTube. It's called Michael Caine Acting in Film. Right? Classic video. It's an hour long, but in the first 10 minutes, it changed everything for me. I came across the video. I don't remember how I came across it. I just remember I just was watching it one day, and literally after the first 10 minutes, I said, wow, I've been doing this wrong. That's what I was doing in these rooms. Because when I got to New York, I knew I wanted to do film and TV. I knew I wasn't going to do theater much longer. And so that's why I was going out for the film and TV jobs and the film and TV roles. And so literally once I saw that video, it made me understand why the casting director may have said you need to take on-camera classes. They weren't saying I didn't know how to act. That's not what they were saying. And I thought that's what they were saying. They were more, you know how to take this skill that you have and make it work for the camera. So once I literally realized that, then I started signing up and taking classes in New York, started learning from casting directors, agents, and managers in New York to really understand how to make my work on the camera. So once I really understood that tool, that's when the booking started coming in. Because now when I'm going to these auditions, right, because you got to be your own agent before you get an agent. You got to build your body of work before an agent can even trust you, right? I started booking these jobs, and now that I had a body of work, I was able to start taking meetings with agents, and then that's when one thing led to another. And I'm glad to say I have a great manager and agent now.
That is a very important part about that building, kind of like being your own agent first. That's a very important part, and that's a good nugget. And one of my good friends, Dean Johnson, is actually watching right now.
Oh, nice.
He's an aspiring actor. Do you know Dean?
I know Dean all too well. Matter of fact, Dean did an amazing monologue for me today at my church. He jumped in there last minute and killed it. So what's up, Dean?
Man, that's my guy. I've been knowing him since, good God, since he was in middle school and graduated from university.
Yeah, Dean's a phenomenal actor. He's actually a client of mine. He's been with my studio almost 2 years now. And Dean himself, he has an agent now. He's going out for some national commercials, going out for some major TV roles. Dean has been doing an amazing job. He found out his brand and type that we talked about, and he's been riding that thing. Has been opening up a lot of doors for him.
Absolutely.
So I'm sorry. Go ahead, Sam.
I had taken a look at your resume, and I found that you did an industrial Best Buy training video. And from
that was years ago. Ooh, that was my early days. I was like, Best Buy. I did Best Buy. That was years ago. Yes.
So from what you're telling us, there's different forms of acting. How is that different than your typical roles?
As far as industrials?
Yes.
Yeah, so industrials are pretty much projects that aren't going to be sold or displayed like on DVD or put on TV. Industrials are made for the company itself. So for instance, if a military wants to make industrial, right, they'll spend their own money to make this big movie or some type of PSA or something just to display it on their own campus, just for their own people to look at it. So that's what an industrial is. It pretty much is not going to be broadcast anywhere.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, but it's all still the same. You're still acting on camera, it's the same formats, but a lot of these industrials, they pay very well. So if you're an actor, non-union actor, do not sleep on industrials. Some of my highest paid jobs as a non-union actor have been industrials. Matter of fact, I did an industrial this was like a year ago for the Food and Drug Administration. It was one of my highest paid jobs. This was, this was industrial.
Because of their budget, right?
Because of their budget.
Yeah. So when you went to New York, how did you, we always hear these stories, but we don't know like the details. Did you go and stay with somebody? Were you in a hotel? Like, did you move there? What happened? How did you get there?
I had $2 and that's not my story. So my grandmother lives in New York. She lives in Brooklyn, New York. So when she knew to come up there, I actually had a pretty easy transition because grandma was cooking, grandma made the bed, grandma took care of you, so I had a comfortable transition getting into New York. So I remember I used to be in workshop and classes and everyone was sharing their comfortable story. I mean, their stories about transitioning to New York and the whole things that happened. I'm sitting there like, not me. I'm good. I'm not starving. Like I'm good. So that's what made, I thank God for that, because that's what made my transition in my career in New York such a smooth transition, was because I had family up there. So even when the career wasn't going good, I still had family there that I was able to lean back on and ride back on. They were able to take care of me when I didn't have any money. I lived that starving artist lifestyle. I did it for like 2.5 years, 3 years. When I first got to New York and I was fully living up there, renting out my grandmother's basement, I was living a starving artist lifestyle, and it was not fun. I literally left a full-time job that I was doing in the DMV area because I had finally got an agent. So in my mind, I said, you know what? I need to be available. I just need to be available. And I had the mindset that if I quit my job and I'm waiting for auditions, that makes me a full-time artist. That is not what makes you a full-time artist. What makes you a full-time artist is if you have a contract that's paying you to be a full-time artist. I just was an auditioning actor. And so I left a job paying X amount of dollars that's keeping me busy, about 20 days or 25 days out the month, to waiting for an audition that may never happen.
That's huge. Did you do the waiting tables? What did you do?
When I was in New York, when I said I lived the starving artist lifestyle, I was not work. When I said I was broke, I was riding off of acting checks. And this was another lesson that I had to teach my clients too, because I thought I was good because if I did a job and they paid me $3,000, I'm like, oh, I'm good. I made $3,000. I'm good. But if I only make 3 different jobs that pays me $3,000, how much money did I make that year? $9,000.
$9,000.
So it sounds good when you're making it in one day, but if you're not doing that at least once a month, like you're going to starve.
You still have rent to pay. Yeah.
I remember one time I did my taxes. This is what, like 2012 maybe, and I made $14,000 in that year. And I had a job paying way more than that because I was pursuing a dream. So I don't regret it at all because I learned so much out of that. But the whole point was that that's the direction that God took me to learn and grow. And I'm able to help a lot of my clients who they'll book their first job and they're like, you know what, I think I'm ready to quit my job. I'm like, wait, hold on, don't quit your job yet. Trust me, you got to work your dream and your job until your dream becomes your job.
So what made you move back? Because you were there, you got an agent. Why didn't you just stay there and live there?
A couple of reasons. For one, McKinnon Acting Studio started growing. You know, when I was in New York, I was coming back every few days to be able to, you know, coach some of the students, and it was doing all right. But once it grew and we started having a lot of clients coming through, the resources that was coming from that, I said, you know, I need to go ahead and put more of my time and effort back there. Also, too, I had met my wife. I mean, at that time, she was my girlfriend, and, you know, and I wanted to literally be around her more and be in this area more. And then 3, my church. My church is a company and an organization and a community that I grew up in, and they definitely always kept me spiritually grounded. And I knew I needed to be that. So I said, instead of living in the expensive New York side, I'd rather live in the DMV area, make life happen, and then just commute back and forth. And this is what I'm always advising actors when they're trying to decide, where should I move to New York? Should I move to LA? I said, for one, you got to have peace about that move. Is God giving you peace about that next step? And 2, where's your resources at? If your resources are in LA or Atlanta or New York, when I say resources, whether it's job opportunities, whether it's family, whether it's, you know, connections, whatever it is, go with those resources. That's what's going to help that transition go a little bit smoother. It's not going to always be easy, but you want to be wise about it and make sure that you have resources in place. And that the number one thing is having peace, because if you don't have peace about it, you feeling uneasy, that may not be the move you should be making.
That's one thing that comes across in even in your acting, your brand, your authenticity. Like you like are straight. This is what it is, you know, and that translates. And I'm watching you, but I'm also looking at some of your video reels. I'm like, you're very believable and authentic in all of the roles that I've seen, you know, thus far. We do have a question from one of our viewers.
Okay, awesome.
So now that we are nearing a post-COVID period in time, and the well-known actors will more than likely be available and willing to get back to work, would you think it would be more difficult for a new actor to get work? Because her brand is more like Viola Davis. So that was a question from, I think, is that another Candy in there?
Candy Powerball?
Yeah.
That's Miss Diane. I know Miss Diane. That's family right there. That's one of my clients as well. Thank you, Miss Diane. Diane was actually one of the first clients that I ever had when I first started my acting studio.
Wow.
In 2012, you know, and phenomenal actress. If you haven't seen the movie Rivermint, she's in that one. She did a phenomenal job in that movie. Please go see it. That was by Shayla Raquel. But to answer the question, the answer is no. The answer is there's definitely going to be work. There's work for everyone. It's just a matter of tapping into where it is. I know that sounds easier said than done, but literally, yes, it may be harder to get a lot of those lead roles because those lead roles are going to people who already built a body of work and have already been on shows. Because you got to think of it from a producer standpoint. They paying an actor hundreds of thousands of dollars to be in a show. They want to make sure people are going to tune into that show. So they're going to, of course, lean on to the bigger name people. That doesn't mean you can't get there or even be considered, you know, because I've been in auditions where I was going out for a lead role. And even though I had a smaller resume than other people in the room, I'm like, I just saw you on Showtime yesterday. I just saw you on this earlier, but I'm in the same room as you. Clearly, the casting director or the director, somebody thought this actor has something that may give him a shot. So the answer is, yeah, there's definitely still work, still build. The key is just positioning yourself to get an agent or a manager, because that is the key to getting those dream roles, right? It's not just keeping yourself busy until one day, you get the role. Is you got to have somebody who's going to get you in the door. I have a couple of clients who literally, they just started acting. One of my clients, she just started acting maybe 2 or 3 years ago. And we was able to get her a manager through one of the workshops that I did. And literally within 1 year, she's booked a guest star role. She's signed with a major big talent agency, right? And because it took a good manager who knew what to do with her brand and type and knew how to get her in those doors.
Mark, that is
Man,
awesome. And I congratulate you on all the success that you've had, especially with a brick and mortar acting studio.
Thank you.
That is no small feat. We're talking about leasing and all these kinds of things that come along with it. But I want to back up because it seems like you started your acting studio pretty early on. So how did you get the resources? Why did you say, okay, right now I'm going to start this acting studio? It seems like it was kind of early on in your career. So can you back up and just give us the timeline of how that happened and all that?
Right. So it first started with one of my mentors, Jay Cameron, who, Candy, I know you talked about in his workshop.
He's great.
When he first, he hired me as his co-director for a lot of his shows he was doing for Sex Church Mafia. It was another one, I can't remember the name of it. But, so I was co-directing a lot of his shows. And while I was co-directing, I still was going back and forth to New York. So a lot of time, and this was like between 2007 to like 2011, 12. I was, going back and forth to New York, but yet I was still also directing the shows. And when I would come back, a lot of the actors would just ask me advice. Hey, Mark, how do I do this? Hey, Mark, how do I get a headshot? I'm just giving advice, not thinking nothing. Like, hey, do this, try this. And those actors were doing it, and they were ended up getting agents and managers and getting auditions. And so that one day, Jay Cameron pulled me to the side. He said, Mark, that's consultation. I said, yeah, I know. He's like, that's a business. I said, yeah, I mean, I'm good. I like doing it. He was like, do you feel like you're exerting a lot of energy and sharing a lot of knowledge? I said, yes. I was like, people pay for that. So he's like, the next person who asked you to coach him, which happened to be Miss Diane, he was like, put a price to it. Put a price to it. I said, all right. And I'll never forget. I remember when she sure enough, she asked me, Mark, I want to do coaching. I want to do a session. I told her the price, and she was like, that's it? I was like, what do you mean that's it? It should be higher. So she got me in a super rate. But the whole point was, ever since that time, I realized, wow, and it felt good. Even though my price back then was super low, it felt good to get paid for doing something that you love.
Yeah.
It good to get paid for your energy, for your time. That felt good.
Absolutely.
It wasn't a job I did not want to go to. This was something that I enjoyed doing. I was already doing it. And whenever I'm ever trying to advise somebody on their purpose has to be something that you're already doing. Even if you wasn't getting paid to do it, you would still do it. If I wasn't getting paid to be an acting coach, I probably would still be doing it because that's how much I love it. So that's what happened when it got to me. That was like 2012 when that first happened. 2012 is when it wasn't McKinnon Acting Studio at the time. It was called Mark McKinnon's Private Coaching and Consultation for Actors. Yeah, it was a long name. Right. But over time, as one person turned into four turned into 12. Before COVID hit, we was averaging about 60 to 70 actors per week that comes through the studio between private coaching, the group classes, the audition tape services. Like, we really have built something special in the area.
That's amazing. So you went from just you consulting to a building. So how did you do that part?
Right. So being that Jay Cameron was one of my mentors, he blessed me with a room. He said, you know what? I know you just started and I want to support you. You helped me with my plays. You've done a lot. So this is how I'm going to bless you. So my first year, he allowed me to use his space to start hosting some of my sessions. So that was at no charge. All right. Wow. And then that's when it led to me, getting a door open with my church, where because I was on the drama ministry there, they was allowing me to use the space at that time to be able to use to build the studio. And that's when it really started growing because it was a big space. The location was great. And that's when the numbers started growing to the point where now I could afford to pay for my own space.
Thank you for sharing that. And, I love Jay. He's so amazing. And I think it's important to hear those details because we always hear, oh, I just went from here to there, got a building, and all this. It's like, well, how did you do it?
How do you get there?
How
Yeah,
did you get
do
there?
it. Yeah.
It's a series of blessings because of you continuing on what you feel is not just your passion, but it sounds like it's part of your mission as well.
Absolutely.
Part of your why. So can you speak a little bit more to that as well? The why you're doing it?
Why am I doing this?
Yeah.
For one, it's my purpose. And God showed me that, God showed me that there's a difference between my passion and my purpose. I used to think they were one and the same, but they're two different things. Where your passion is the gift and the skill that you have and that you use to go after what you want. Whereas your purpose is all about how you're helping someone else. So God gave me the passion of acting that led to the acting studio that's helping other people. People will tell you all the time, I'm always the first to cheer somebody on, or I can't wait to hear that the next person booked the job. Why? There's no jealousy there. I'm extremely excited. I'm authentically, sometimes I get more hype when somebody else books a job more than I do for myself when I book a job, because that's just, I can't explain it. That's just naturally how much I'm in it. But that's my answer for that question is I just know it's my purpose. I know this is what I'm supposed to do. This is what God showed me I'm supposed to be doing.
Yeah, that's wonderful. We do have a couple other questions. Let's see. Nancy says, after I got terminated from my job 2 years ago, I decided to go back to pursuing an acting career. In the 90s, I studied with Rob Reese of the Rob Reese Actor Studio, a 68-year-old white actress. Maybe I could put myself out there beginning with extra work. Can you advise me of legitimate casting or talent agencies so I don't get ripped off? Thank you.
Man, there's no short answer to that. That's like a full detail, and I don't want to sugarcoat it or try to just give you I'll try to give you a quick answer, but there's so much detail into the advice that I would have for her. But to answer that question, the agencies you want to avoid are the ones that make you pay up front. There's agencies that would say, hey, first come to our free seminar, our free workshop, right? And then once you come to our free seminar, our free workshop, then they'll say, okay, for you to be a part of our company, just pay this amount of money and then pay us monthly, and then we'll take care of everything else. So avoid those. Avoid the malls that give, the people who say, hey, this, we can make you a star in the malls. Avoid the billboards, avoid the hotels. Any of those type of projects or companies that say, hey, we can make you a star, if they're calling you or emailing you, how they got their information, and out of nowhere, they're like, we can make you a star. Avoid those situations. The right agencies, the right managers, they don't charge you up front. They get paid when you get paid. There's no monthly membership fee. There's no annual fee. There's no upfront starting fee. So avoid those companies. That's the best advice I can give you in short, Nancy, is to avoid those companies who try to make you pay up front. 2, personalities. If there's ever an agent or a manager who said, this is how you're going to do it, you're going to do it my way, you don't know what you're doing, avoid those situations because that's control, right? The agent works for you just as much as you're represented by them. So you got to understand that it's a partnership, it's a collaboration, and not somebody who's saying, this is how you're going to do it. I've seen that happen to so many clients that, it's an unfair situation.
Oh yeah. That's something my dad would always tell me, because being in the music industry, it's like, just be aware of people that's like, hey, I can do this for you. Send me this amount of money first. So it's just one of those, one of those things. It's I would say a consistent thing across industries, in that way.
Gotcha. And there's also some money schemes out there too. I had to consult somebody through it. It was like they had randomly got an email about this big sports commercial, and they told him like, hey, you have a great look. They had a professional email and everything, but it was like, you have a great look. We think you'd be perfect for our commercials, filming in Florida. We'll pay for your flight and hotel. We'll pay you $3,000 for the job. Matter of fact, we'll send you the check up front, to prove that we really want you to do this. So what these scheme companies do is they'll literally mail you a check. They'll create this, I guess, ghost account and whatever. They'll mail you a check, but then they'll tell you, hey, however, through that money, you're responsible for paying the makeup artist and the whoever else who's supposed to be on set. So when you get the check, you got to deposit the check right away and make sure as soon as you deposit that you take the $300 and you send it to a certain account. You basically wire transfer the money. So the thing is, if you get that check and you put it in the bank, what is the bank going to do? They're going to release that $200 or $300. And so because you're thinking, oh, it's time sensitive, what do? You go ahead and take $200 or $300 out of your bank account from that check that you put in, and you send it to that company. That company is still texting like, all right, we're going to send a car to pick you up and everything. Why? Because they're killing time for that check to what? Bounce. Because once that check bounce, not only did you already send them that $200 or $300, but they got paid, right? And the bank is going to charge you for putting a bogus check in there, and you got to pay back any money that you already spent. So there's some schemes out there like that. So avoid anybody who says we're going to pay you up front. We're going to send you a check, and especially if they're saying you have to pay for the makeup artist. If you're booking me for the job, why do I have to pay you for the makeup artist to be on the set? Pay them but yourself, pay them separately. You send them a check. So avoid those schemes that literally would say that.
Yeah, Nancy said that she was already aware of some of those scams because in the late 80s it happened to her. Yeah. That's good stuff.
Yeah.
So, what makes, I know you talked about avoiding scams, but what makes McKinnon Acting Studio the studio to get your acting coaching from?
Well, for one, honestly, you have somebody who runs the studio who's on this journey himself. I'm going through the fire. I'm figuring things out too. I'm trying to learn a lot as I go. The more I learn, the more I'm able to teach the McKinnon Acting Studio family. So you're getting that. Number two, we focus more on the business side of things than anything else. Because if you really understand the business side, then it's a little bit easier, not easy, but easier to navigate through the industry because you understand certain steps and you understand the journey that you have to go on. And yes, it gets frustrating, but at least because you have a strategy and a plan, you're able to continue to attack the goals that you have set for yourself.
Okay. So other than, like I said, the scams, what else should she look for in the casting agencies? There's yours, and what else can you?
Well, we're not a casting agency, so yeah, our studio is not a casting agency. I have been hired independently to be a casting director, but the acting studio, we literally just coach and consult actors. We don't provide jobs. We don't represent nobody. We don't take percentages for if they book. People have asked me to manage them. I said, I know the type of time and sacrifice it takes to manage someone. So that's why we haven't gone that far. But we position you. We basically give you knowledge that a manager would give you when it comes to branding and typing. So by the time you get a manager, you already kind of know the game already. I'm sorry, what was the question one more time? Was something else to look for in agencies?
She wants to get extra work, and so she wanted to get some advice about casting or talent agencies.
So here's a question for Nancy. When you said you was dreaming of being an actor, your dream was to be a background actress? Probably not, right? There's nothing wrong with doing background work, but I always advise actors, do not get stuck doing background work. Do not get stuck doing background work. For one, you can't put background work on your resume. Two, you can't build a reel out of background work. I've had clients who came to the studio and it was like they've been on Batman, they've been on Dark Knight, they've been on Superman, they've been on all these shows. I'm like, oh, let me see your reel. Oh, no, I just did background work. Oh, that should not be on your resume. Casting directors do not like when you put background work on your resume. Now, if you want to do background work and there's actors, that's what they want to do. They're okay. They make a living off of doing background work. Nothing wrong with that. Then go for it. Have that resume that lists all those background jobs. So when you get another agency that wants to catch for background, they can tell that this is what you do. However, if your goal and dream is to do some work where you're going on a journey with a character and you're doing lines and you're playing these emotions, right? The more background work you take, the more they're going to keep calling you in for background work. You have to get to a place where if you've done the background work already and you got to experience it on set, that you need to literally start taking up that leap of faith and saying, okay, what do I need to do to position myself to start going out for these speaking roles? So don't be afraid of student films and independent films. Web series are really big right now. There's quite a few people in the area who are shooting web series. You got to do those things. Even if you pay to have a reel made, there's a company called like Reel to Reel in the area where they literally actors pay them and they bring their professional equipment and everything. They'll create a scene for you, give a director on set, and you'll literally shoot a short few minute scene that fits your brand and type. That's another way to get footage and reel.
Oh,
Okay, thank you, Nancy, for your question. We have another question from Yane Marie. She says, "Hey, this is very helpful. How many short films do you need to make a good reel when you're still building your resume?"
What's up, Yane? Yeah, I know Yane. She's one of the family members too. It's not a matter of how. There's no answer to how many short films you have, even if it's 2, whether it's 8. It's just a matter of us seeing you in different types of characters throughout that reel. So let's say you only have 2 films that you booked. Literally, you will find a way to make a nice, solid reel out of those 2 films. You never want to just have a whole 2-minute reel off of one film, because nobody's going to watch the whole thing if you're playing one character the whole time. So if you only have 1 film on your belt right now, your reel should be no more than a minute. And you just take some of your best acting moment scenes. And when it comes to reels, you want to avoid those moments where you say a few lines, then the other actor's talking for a long time. You're just sitting there listening. No, we need to see the moments where you're mostly talking or mostly doing the acting, which is going to be key in that reel. And then she said, make a good reel when you're still building your resume. So yeah, so just shoot. Even if you get your first 2 to 3, you should be good, Yane.
Hi, this is Sean. It's nice to meet you, Mark.
Hi, Sean.
I wanted to ask, why are you based in DMV? What's your tie to DMV when you could be in one of the other markets?
As far as the studio?
Mm-hmm.
Well, because the other markets are oversaturated. For one, there's several high-name, big, respectable acting coaches, like my acting coaches in New York, and with the prices that they charge and the amount of clients that they have, it wasn't one of those deals where, at least right now in the journey of the studio, where I saw myself really building something big out there. The actors in this area, the community in this area has been so supportive of McKinnon Acting Studio, to the point where acting studios and agents and managers in New York and LA and Atlanta are calling us here in PG County, Maryland. So we built something special here. So that's why I'm still here, is because I didn't have to go there. If we're able to get people on network TV and get national commercials and get agents, and they live right here in Maryland or in DC, why go out there when I can get those jobs here? Especially now with it being COVID, 99.9% of the jobs, the auditions are going to be self-tape. A lot of jobs that was booked even before COVID was done through self-tapes right in our studio, right from home. Those people got flown to Chicago, got flown to LA, or had to go up to New York to film it. And so you literally, in this day and time, it's not like how it was 10, 15 years ago, where you had to have a New York address, you had to have a New York number, you had to be there. Like, you literally can be anywhere now and market yourself. As long as you can get there, as long as you can make it happen, you can make it happen.
So, Mark, speak more to that. We're in the era of COVID, and you said, I want you to explain more about the self-tape. But when it comes to booking the job, how are the productions going on? And keeping people safe.
Right. Well, SAG-AFTRA, when it comes to like the major, bigger studio things that's going to require a lot more people on set, they have not started those processes yet. So the people who are filming now are more of the smaller independent companies or smaller films that's able to maintain 10 or less people in a space at a time. I was blessed to cast 2 BET Her films, as well as I was able to be a lead in another one. And literally that was the case. Like, there was never a time where there was more than 10 people in a room, and where you had to practice all the social distancing measures. They made sure when we had our lunches, no one shared any tables or anything. Everything was packaged, right? So there's so many things that go into place. But when you have a production, let's say if you think of any type of big budget movie, there's no way they can only have 10 people in the room. Half of the scenes have 20 times that in the room for a scene. So you don't see none of the bigger major projects doing anything yet. But you see a lot of independent films, whether it's in the area or other markets, they're starting to do things because they can work in smaller numbers.
Okay. And then can you talk more about the self-tape?
Yes, self-tape. So any specific angle, is so many things, so many angles.
For those of us who don't know what it is, if you could explain it.
Yes. So self-tape is pretty much your way of putting yourself on tape, whether it's at home or you go to a studio for someone to do it, to basically audition for a role. This is typically what you do when you actually go to a casting director's office. You're not just auditioning for them. they're putting you on tape to send to the producers. So now, because self-taping is so big, you now can tape right from home. As I said earlier, we had people who booked roles and guest star roles and series regular roles right from home, right from their living room. The BET film that I booked that right here in this room right here. You know, so those things really work when it comes to self-tape. So this is why I'm telling my clients now more than ever is the important time to invest in self-tape equipment, where you might get a nice blue screen backdrop or a green screen backdrop behind you, getting a nice light, right? If you have a camera on your phone, right, getting a camera stand to hold that phone up. You want to make sure you have all these things in place. Learn how to edit now. Don't wait till you get an audition and try to say, all right, let me figure out how to edit. Let me figure out how to make this work, because you're going to drive yourself crazy. And 9 times out of 10, you're not going to get that tape in on time, right? So self-taping is so key. Having a reader, especially if there's a scene where you're going back and forth with lines. You should not be reading the reader's lines on your own. I've seen actors do that, where they either won't say anything. They're like, hey, how's it going? Good. I'm like, wait, who are you talking to? Like, who's there? Right. So it's okay to have either somebody call in or Skype in and read the lines with you. Or if you have a family member in the house, like my wife, she's not the best actress in the world, but she's a great reader. She's helped me do a lot of auditions. And so you got to make it. This time, my grandma, when I was in New York, my grandma was my reader. And I was like, all right, grandma, we're going to do this a couple more times. We're going to get you right. But you do what you have to do to make it work when it comes to self-tapes. But anything that distracts from your eyes, like I would not have this background behind me if I was doing tape. Why? Because your eyes are looking at all the little stuff behind me. You're focused on everything else but what? Me. So whenever you do self-tapes, you want to have a blank, solid wall behind you. So if you're not able to get the nice screen behind you, just find a blank wall in your house. I remember before I got my fancy equipment, I used to take that little picture frame down and I used to set it up so it's just a blank, solid wall behind me. Those are things you do to make sure that everyone is focused on your eyes, because when it comes to acting, your eyes is the most important tools. I'll actually be dropping a master class in late August called the Power of the Eyes, where I'm going to be teaching actors how to correctly use their eyes when it comes to auditioning and building characters and building their environment with the eyes.
That's awesome. I love that. Yeah, that sounds really good. So with the self-tape, and you said someone can read for you, is that person on camera with you, or they're in the background?
The self-tape is about you. So Candy, the wall you got behind you, that's perfect. That's a blank solid wall. There's nothing distracting. Kennard's wall is like, there's nothing distracting. Now Isaiah, you know, I'm looking at that nice frame behind you. I'm like, yeah, I'm not focusing on you because I see the nice frame. So you want to make sure that, again, nothing distracts from us seeing you.
Okay. Okay. Very good. Yeah, I saw where you now have a huge team and you've got all these other people coming on to do these courses. It's awesome. It's nice to see so many of your actors getting booked. Absolutely incredible. So are there some maybe hidden, I know you mentioned the independent films. Are there some other hidden opportunities that maybe people don't realize that they should go after?
It's a lot. Again, a lot of web series are being done now. There's a guy by the name of Derek. What's his last name? I think Gray. I think it is. He does like Toll Booth. He does a couple of other films, but he's been casting a lot of actors in the area. He's producing a lot of projects in the area right here, and it's high quality, good looking projects. But if you look up Toll Booth, you'll be able to see his name and all his information and everything. But again, like these are people that you want to get in touch with to keep yourself busy, to keep yourself working. Again, I know right now the schools are out, but student films, when school gets back in place and, you know, those communications are able to do short films again, get into those. Also producing your own work. Collaborate with people. And if you got somebody who has a nice camera and you guys get together and y'all figure it out and start producing your own work, it's not about always being the best. Sometimes it's about just practicing the jobs, practicing the work. Even if you're at home right now, this is the best time to print a scene that you can find online and practice the scene at home. Practice tape. Send it to yourself. Watch yourself back. Acting in the mirror is the worst way to teach yourself how to act, because you're lying to yourself because you see everything that you're doing. But if you use to take the camera phone and make sure that the screen is not facing you, and you do a scene you're acting, because the way you feel sometimes while you're performing is going to be different from what you see on camera. This time, even while I'm acting, I'm feeling like, yo, I'm doing a terrible job. This is terrible. But then I look at the tape and I'm like, that wasn't too bad. Or vice versa. where it feels like, oh, I'm doing great. Like, oh, I'm killing it. And then I look at the table, I'm like, what was that? Like, you know, so you got to practice doing that at home now. So when the opportunity actually comes, that you're able to know what you're doing.
So stay ready so you don't have to get ready.
I love it. Yes, absolutely.
Amen.
Can I ask, Mark, what was your greatest hurdle as you were breaking out as a coach? What was the greatest hurdle you had to overcome?
It took a while for people to accept that I was young and that I was Black. It took a while. I remember, I can't say any names publicly, of course, but I remember there was a site that I used to promote my workshops on to, you know, let actors in the area know about these workshops. And literally for a whole year was promoting through them, never had any problems. But then they saw how much they were selling out. They saw all these big name agents and casting directors coming to the studio. Next thing you know, when I tried to promote a workshop one time, they said, sorry, we can't promote this. I said, why not? There's like, oh, it's in conflict of interest for what we're doing. What? You know, so you had something like that. I've had 2 clients who had to go to an audition for this casting director that was in the area. And when when the actors walked in, mind you, they didn't walk in together. These are 2 different people, 2 different times, but they heard the same thing because they both came back to me and they were shocked at what they heard. And when they got to audition, the casting director looked at them and said, we see Mark McKinnon on your resume. Like, why do you go to him? Like, how does he know what casting directors want? Like, why are you paying him? He's just another actor in the area who was doing the industrials just like you. How is he in the position now? You know, and I'm like, wow, that hurt a little bit. You know, that did hurt because this was my first time hearing negative energy. You know, so you have people who didn't understand. I would never forget, you know, there was an organization in the area where they hired me to teach their actors, and all the actors were over the age of 50 when they came.
Okay.
They came in there, they had their nose up, looking around like, okay. I lied to you not. By the end of the class, 2 people came to me and they said, you know what, Mark? I honestly didn't know what I was going to get out of this, but there was like, this is one of the best classes and experiences I ever had. There's like, I learned more in this one class than I've done in like several workshops in New York and LA. You know, and so it's like when you hear things like that, it's like that's what keeps you going. That, you know, it shows that the gift that God has given me to pursue this purpose of mine, you know, it's just truly a blessing. So even when the negative feedback comes, because they're going to come, you know, it's going to happen. Like, once I learned the art that no matter how good you are doing, no matter how much your head is straight, someone's always going to have something negative to say. You don't let it phase you as much because you're already expecting it. You already know someone's not going to like it.
I have a follow-up question, and that is, who do you credit, whether at Howard or in other places, who do you credit, or, you know, what institutions do you credit for supporting you, cementing your skill?
Definitely Howard University. That's where the foundation of me learning what it really means to be an actor, what it really means to break down characters. I have to give a shout out to Howard University, to one of my professors, Denise Hart. Big shout out to her. Because she had her own acting studio. It was really, really big deal in this area. And when her business, as far as a public speaker, started growing, she was no longer able to fully focus on the studio. So when she closed it down, out of all the other acting coaches and studios that she could have sent her clients to, mind you, this is early on in my coaching career, she made a public post and said, I'm referring all my clients to go to Mark McKinnon. And that meant a lot for somebody who taught you at Howard to now want to send their clients and trust you with their clients. You know, there was a huge growth for McKinnon Studio through that. You know, so definitely Denise Howard, Kim Bay, Al Freeman Jr. I don't know if you saw Malcolm X that starred Denzel. Al Freeman, he played Muhammad in there. He was one of my professors at Howard, but he taught me a great deal. He's one of the first people that really helped me be confident in who I am. You know, a lot of times we get so much in our head. He was the one that really helped me understand that. And then late Reggie Ray. Reggie Ray, he was another professor at Howard. He's no longer here. But he was somebody that really helped me understand and made me believe that I have something in me to make it. And he wasn't saying that just to make me feel good. Like, he literally said some specific things that made me realize, Mark, you need to really take this serious.
Wow, that's beautiful. I mean, especially to get that referral from your own mentor. That's there's just not too much more you can say about that. I mean, that's huge.
Right. 'Cause it's a lot. You know, if I was to close down my studio right now, I'm like, who can I send to? Like, I don't know who I trust yet. I don't know yet. You know, but I'm not there yet. I'll get there soon. I gotta start looking. You know, but nah, that's why I have a team, because my career, God's been opening a lot of doors. I was getting more and more busy, and I literally had a mental breakdown in 2017 because not only was I teaching all day private coaching from 12 to 6, but then I was teaching a group class from 6 to 7:30, and then another group class from 7:30 to 10. All right, so I'm literally teaching all day, 5 days a week, sometimes 6 days a week, and squeezing in audition tapes. But then sometimes I would have to go to New York for an audition, so I'll make it to New York, knock out that audition, and come right back to teach the class at night. So because I was doing all that, by the time I got to the fall of 2017, I literally had a mental breakdown, and I twisted it in a way. And I told the clients, you know what? We're going to take a nice holiday break. We didn't come back after October because I just could not take it at that time. And so that's what made me finally started to hire help. I finally had some people that I trusted that, either studied under me or I respected what they did on their journey. And this is when I finally started to let go and say, you know what? I can't do this on my own. I need the help. And if anything, the studio grew even more, 3 times more than where it was when it was just me. So it was tough at first, because you're an entrepreneur and at first it's just you used to receiving everything on your own. Everything is in your hands. But I was like, oh, I gotta pay y'all. I gotta take some of the money. But it was the best investment I can ever make. Because the studio, the studio is at a place where I never imagined it could be, and it's greatly because of my team. I have an amazing team who all are phenomenal actors. They're still out there themselves. One of the coaches, he's actually going to be starring in Ghost Power Book 2. So it's a spinoff of Power. He's current guest star on there. So that's what I'm saying. Our team, they're working actors. We have a client, or my administrator, she's on set right now filming a movie right now.
Oh, wow.
So the team, they're working actors and they get it. They're people who I can trust and that the student body has said great things about them since they've been intact. So actually July, it marks 1 year that I haven't taught the evening group classes. I only focus on private coaching now.
Oh,
literally
wow.
a whole year now, for the first time in the history of McKinnon Acting Studio, I have an evening class.
Wow, congratulations. And thank you so much for sharing the piece about your breakdown, because I think it's important for people to hear that, because they look at you and they see all the success and they think, oh, everything's perfect and everything's going great. And then, like you said, you were overworking yourself, and so many of us don't take that time that we need. I mean, the business is growing, that's great, but you got to take that time for yourself so that you can avoid something like that.
Exactly. And this is how passionate I was about it. There's been times I'll be in a waiting room waiting to go on an audition. I'm sitting there answering emails. I did not know how to turn it off. I just didn't, because it wasn't that I felt like I was forced to, but that's how much of a heart I have for helping people. My wife tells me all the time, she's like, Mark, you're so busy helping everyone else that you're forgetting yourself. And I can admit that. There's been a season where literally I was not focused on me. 2020, things have changed where I can say I literally have made more sacrifices and put more time into my own career to make sure that I'm taking care of me. And I'm really glad to see the results that have happened since I made that decision.
So how are you now incorporating and making sure that you are taking care of yourself? Like what new practices do you have as a result?
I'm practicing. I'm actually in acting classes now. There was a period for almost 2 years where I did not take any acting classes at all, because I'm coaching when I'm reading scenes with them. It feels like you're learning and that you're doing it and you feel like you're on par, but I wasn't. In 2017, I didn't book no jobs at all. The whole year, I did not book one job. And that was the first year that I actually did not take any classes, because I had a really good year in 2016. I literally booked 12 jobs in that 1 year. That's when I started getting my network TV roles in 2016. So I was like, I'm good now. I can just go ahead and ride the coast. And so I didn't take any classes. And it wasn't until the end of the year when I realized I didn't book any jobs. I'm not training, I'm not studying. So that's one of the things that I had decided to do over the past year and a half, was I wanted to make sure I saw my coach more daily. I wanted to make sure I was studying. I want to make sure that I'm putting myself under the radar, making sure I'm practicing scenes at home. If there was a general audition that was posted on one of the casting sites, I did it. I didn't think I was too big not to do it. I made sure I did it. So I wanted to make sure that I was still training and studying.
Yeah, that's good. I think we're going to take a quick 2-minute break, if that's okay with you.
Yeah.
And we'll come right back.
Awesome.
Thank you, guys. We'll be right back.
It's me. I'm coming home. It's party time. Yeah, let's get some of the guys together. No, let me make the calls. Yeah, man, it's gonna be crazy. Sarah, you coming, right? Jake, what's going on, yo? Oh, a little bit of cheese. I'm about to text you the directions now. I cannot wait to see you guys.
Domain Symbols, where sound meets passion and craftsmanship meets creativity for the elite drummer. Select from our vast arrangement of packages and series with affordability for the working professional. Check us out online at www.domainsymbols.com and by phone at 1-800-646-7598.
What do we got? Vic is a white male in his 50s found this morning by a jogger. Wife cares in a nanny will sleep in an apartment. His name is Felix Raw.
Like the photographer?
Beats me. His wife's upstairs. You can ask her if he takes pictures.
Look, we got this. Can you give us a hand with the crowd?
Yeah, you got it. Eddie, hey. All right, everybody just back it up.
Please.
Hey, you good? I'm good. Go. Hey, police, stop. Eddie. He's hit. Go bust. Hey. 13 officers down, guns just fired. Folks, sit down.
You okay?
We lost a guy today.
Oh man, who?
Michaels.
Michaels. Damn. You gonna be okay?
3 nines and Joker's wild. 4 of a kind. Must be my lucky night.
Stop or I will fire. I said stop or I will fire. Call for backup.
Show me your hands! Show me your hands!
Okay, what the hell's going on? I'm dead.
Good. The room is clear.
What do you think's in there? Let's say you open it up, stick your head in, and take a gander.
Come on. Hey, Sean. So you have some questions for Mr. Mark. We are back from our short break.
Thank you. I have a question.
Oh, by the way, Mark, that first short reel, I don't know why that cracks me. I mean, I know it was a serious thing about being distracted and driving, but I laughed every time I saw it because how many times she was like looking at your food. Like,
what was funny about that commercial? When I had booked it, there was no lines at all.
Oh, really?
You told me about it. They were like, you're just driving in the car, and you're distracted, you're fumbling with things, and we'll go from there. And I got the set. There's like, all right, Mark, so you're gonna be saying this, you're gonna be doing that. I'm like, wait, what? So I had to literally learn all those things, and it made it happen. But I mean, it came out really, really good. It was a huge PSA that they had, made about distracted driving.
Your character is so relatable in that piece. I mean, we've either been that person or we've ridden with that person.
I'm still that person sometimes. Sometimes I got my little sandwich in my hand driving.
Well, my question is, what keeps you down to earth and approachable, and in touch with your humility?
I honestly think my spiritual walk has kept me grounded. I've always been known as someone to remain humble. I'm known as a naturally nice guy. Whenever I get pulled over by the police, they'll look at me and be like, "Man, get out of here!" Like, it's nothing about me that's like evil in my bone. It's just like that's just how I'm wired. My mom did a phenomenal job of raising me in a spirit-filled home. She always beat me over the head about always remain humble, always give. And so that's all I knew coming up. I'm originally from the South, so I come from a home of manners and a lifestyle of manners.
Neat. Can I ask, why did you choose to become an actor?
So one of the reasons was at first I didn't like who I was. When I was in high school, I struggled with my identity. I was so busy trying to be someone else. And so when I got into acting, I realized it was fun playing someone else, and I got myself lost in it. So before I really understood and got to know who I was hiding from myself through acting, through all the different characters I would play. If I played a character, if I something about them I like, I'll try to use them in my everyday life and walk like that person or talk like that person. Because I did not know who I was. I didn't realize who I was until I met my father at his funeral. It was 2014. My father, he wasn't in my life. The last time I saw him before the funeral, I was 8 years old. Fast forward a few years later, I get a random call from a family member I didn't even know was a family member saying that he had passed away. And so when I got to the funeral, I don't know what happened, but it was like as I walked up to the casket and I saw him, it was like God was speaking to me through him in that moment of this is who you are. This is your assignment. This is what you're supposed to do. Because I'm a firm believer that the father gives the son identity. And this is why a lot of young men struggle with identity, because the father is not in the household. They don't know the direction they're supposed to go. They don't know who they're supposed to be. They don't know how to carry on their family name because the father's not there to position them. And unfortunately, I was one of those people where I literally did not have direction. Thank God for mentors, thank God for great men who were in my life to keep me on track, to keep me focused. But I didn't know who McKinnon was. My father was the only child, and my grandmother had passed away when I was 8. And I didn't have no family on the McKinnon side. So that's what led me to my purpose of building the McKinnon name, which hence the studio is called McKinnon Acting Studio, because it came behind, I want to establish the tradition and who the McKinnons are going to be.
Mm-hmm. Beautiful.
Thank you.
That's amazing. I'm sorry for your loss.
No, thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah, for sure.
It obviously shaped you. And like you said, in that moment, God told you what it is, what your purpose was.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's what that turnaround came to when I talked about I went from being a starving artist to now being at a place where I'm honored to say that I have a balanced life. I'm financially doing well for myself. But it was literally on that plane ride down to Orlando. I literally, because when he passed away, I was still kind of in my starving artist lifestyle. I couldn't afford to go down there. I couldn't. When I found out he died, I literally almost missed the funeral because I had no money to even get on the plane.
Wow.
For my mentors who they came together and it was able to bless me to get down there. But it was on that plane ride down there that I said to myself, what am I doing if I can't even make it to someone's funeral? I lie down. I said, something's not right. Something is not right. And ever since that moment, like that trip to go see my father in 2014, again, he was in Orlando, was life-changing for me as a man. Because when I came back, that's when I got myself together financially, started working a job. I changed how I went about acting. It changed everything about me. I felt like I knew who I was at that moment. I understood my purpose. So like 2014 was that major turnaround milestone year for me. That's something I would tell my grandchildren, my children, like that was that turnaround point for me as a man.
Wow. So what advice do you give to people who are trying to figure that out? Their place.
Their place and purpose. Well, I always tell people 3 things when it comes to understanding your purpose. Number 1, you got to understand what makes you angry. When you know what makes you angry, that means your purpose is supposed to go towards fixing that problem. Let's say like every time you turn on the news, you get frustrated seeing another young girl being molested or being raped or another homeless person, whatever, right? Like maybe there's a reason why that's affecting you. So maybe you're supposed to do something about that. So you use that anger to fuel the direction you want to go with helping that person or those people. right? Another thing is what makes you genuinely happy. You know, God's not going to give you a passion or a purpose or something you hate to do. If you don't like it, why would he put you through that? So you got to really love doing what you're doing. And then the third thing is, and as I said earlier, what are you willing to do? If nobody paid you to do it, you still would be doing it. So that's what purpose is all about. And if you hear the 3 steps that I said, it's kind of what happened with my story, right? I was already coaching. No one was paying me to do it in the beginning. I was already doing it. It wasn't like I said one day, how can I make some money? I'm going to try this acting coach thing. No, like I was already doing it. You know, the things that used to make me angry, I spent hundreds of dollars before going to a random hotel, what do you call it? You know, little scheme things, one of the schemes where the marketing things. I spent money doing that and walked on the stage in front of 40 people and lost all my money, right? Like I've done all those things. That used to make me angry. It made me angry when you got some people in the area to this day who are like, you know, they're taking advantage of actors and not treating them fairly, and all of that made me angry. So because of that, I want to do something about that. So what did I do? I created a studio to help people avoid those moments.
Right.
Isaiah, you had a couple of questions for him?
Yeah, I have a question about marketing. So as an actor and as a Black actor, how do you market yourself, whether it's to managers, whether it's to casting calls? How do you do that?
Right. So one of the things you want to make sure you're doing is having a really good headshot. When you have a really good headshot that shows us your type, the type of roles you're going to fit, the type of roles that you want, the type of energy that you have, right? Because let's say you are like a jock type of guy, you know, or let's say you're like a nerd geek type of guy, or let's say you're the street bully type of guy, whatever, right? We need to see that through your headshot, right? So that's one of the key ways to get an agent. Is not just your talent. Your talent's supposed to be good. It's where would you fit on their roster. And I'm learning that so much more now, especially when I bring agents and managers down to my acting studio. They're saying that all the time. Everything is about brand and type. Even when I'm doing with ABC right now, I was blessed with the opportunity where I was chosen as one of the top 16 actors in New York out of 15,000, which is like a blessing. You know, thank you. I appreciate that. And it's amazing. That's what they're telling us right now. Everything is brand and type. They're trying to see, okay, we want to learn your brand and type so we know what to do with you. That's how you market yourself. It has to be very clear as day the type of roles you fit and where we can put you in the next film or the next TV show.
And that starts with you knowing yourself and you knowing what you can fit as well, right?
Absolutely. Because if you don't know yourself, the industry would tell you. And that's why you see so many actors or people who are unhappy, or you see them not really doing their best because it's like they don't really want to do it. They're just doing it because this is the way the industry pushed them. But when you put in place, this is who you are, these are the type of roles you're going to take, these are the type of roles you won't take, you're able to say no to certain jobs and opportunities. Why? Because you know who you are.
And I got one more question. So it sounds like you had a lot of fortitude in that time that you were a struggling artist. What did you tell yourself in those moments that you had self-doubt, or did you even have self-doubt?
Oh, man, yeah, self-doubt. I mean, even recently I had self-doubt. You know, self-doubt I learned is always going to be there because the mind has a way of the flesh has a way of always helping you think negatively. What I learned the art of, you have to speak out against it. If I'm just speaking to myself within my own head, the negative battle is going to win. But when I start speaking out, why do you think athletes, right? What do they do before the game? They get in a circle. What are they doing? They're affirming and they're declaring whose house it is, what they're about to do. They have to speak it. No matter how good the next team may be, what they're doing, they're speaking what they're going to take care of. Words have power. You know, one of the things that my wife also helped me do too was writing down your goals on sticky notes and stuff in place. I mean, before we cleaned up this place, like we had sticky notes all over the place. So every day I'm waking up, I'm in the mirror, washing my face, I'm looking up, I'm seeing a goal, or I'm seeing an affirmation. This is who you are. This is what you're going to do. This is how much you're going to make this week. This is who you're going to bless this week, right? So you start seeing those things and you have to, you know, because she has a rule where you have to read it out loud. Because you can't just look at it and just say it in your head because it's going to go away. If you speak it, you got to speak it and you got to believe it so that you can receive it, right? So she had me doing this. She had us do that in our household. And God has done amazing things through that. Like the way God is blessing her, the way God has been blessing us, you know, has been amazing. I truly believe it came from those affirmations and really declaring who you are, what you want, and who you're going to be.
That's very key.
I love that.
Thank
That's amazing. You have an amazing wife, but you already know that.
That's why I married her. Yeah, that's why I married her.
Hey, anybody got Givelify? Let's go ahead and bless the man.
I had a question, Mark, going back to the headshot. I noticed you have both one that's plain and one that's with facial hair. So are they conveying different things? And can you explain those?
Yes, because I get called in for a lot of law enforcement type of roles. You know, that's one of the directions my management wanted me to go. That was to have clean shaven shots, just so you know, it's just out there. I don't really use that shot anymore, only because I have enough footage now. I've been on TV quite a few times. Actually, if you look at my whole reel that you just played, I was clean shaven in all those things, right? Last two movies I did one movie called Available Wife, where you finally see how I look today, and then the last BET movie, which comes out October 17th, you'll get to see me finally with a beard now, things like that. So now I have the best of both worlds. Starting out in my career, that's what worked for me. The clean shaven, clean cut look is what worked. That's what got me through the door. Again, use what you got to get what you want. You need me to shave my beard, I'm gonna shave my beard. Like that's what it took at the time. Now when I go to auditions, if it's for a cop role, because I have so much materials as clean shaven, I don't have to go in clean shaven anymore. I can go in like this today, even if the role requires you to be clean shaven.
Cool. So, what are some of your favorite actors, or who are?
That's a really good question. One of my favorites, I have to say, is Leonardo DiCaprio. Specifically, one of the movies I loved him in was The Great Gatsby. If you haven't seen that movie, it's an amazing story, amazing acting in it. Another person is Idris Elba. I love it. He did Daddy's Little Girls. He's just a phenomenal actor that I enjoy watching. And then another person is Tom Hardy. I love what Tom Hardy does with his eyes. I teach a lot on the eyes, and a lot of what he does. That's why he got the role of Bane. There's documentaries on it. He got the role of Bane. There was this old war movie that he got where he literally was an air pilot for the whole movie. He had a helmet on the whole time, so all you see is his eyes. Wow. He's really good with his eyes. Remember, if you watch Bane, you didn't see his face the whole movie. You saw just his eyes, right? So he was phenomenal with telling a story with his eyes.
Yeah, that sounds like a really good workshop that you're going to be doing. You said in late August? Is that what you said?
Yeah, late August. Yeah, I'm trying to because ABC now, what's happening is they have me preparing for something major way in November. So they're taking a lot of my time now. So it's like I'm trying to wait to see what the schedule is for August so I can release an official date, because I don't want to release a date and then so I'm just waiting to kind of see what August is going to look like based on what we're doing. I mean, they're working me. 4 or 5 hours a day. So last week, I mean, they definitely are doing some amazing things with this.
Now, is that up in New York or where's
that? So originally this happens in New York and LA, but because of COVID, we're doing everything virtual now. So I'm able to do it right from home. But honestly, I think that's what makes it worse, because now you're sitting in one spot at a computer for the whole time you're in the workshops and everything. But however, it's just a blessing, and I can't wait for everyone to see what's going to come from it, because it was a major opportunity to get selected for that.
Yeah, we're excited for you. That sounds awesome. And Sean?
I have a few questions. Before I ask the second one, what's the most useful acting exercise you've ever learned or taught?
Most useful. Number one, when it comes to acting on camera, I use the term top secret conversation, because a lot of time when you're acting in theater, you have to project to the back of the stage, right? You have to project to the back of the stage. The arena. You got to make sure everyone in the building can see you, so you're making bigger facial expressions, right? So I'm making everything large when I'm on stage. However, when you're on camera, if you do that, you're gonna look crazy, right? And so I'm telling the actors, especially my theater actors who come and they're trying to learn how to act on camera, I always say, act like you're having a top secret conversation. Because if you watch any TV show or movie, what are they doing? Everything is just kind of talking a little low, and we just talking the next thing. Yeah, it's a little bit more subtle. That's it. So when you learn the art of that, that's what helps your work look more natural on camera. Also, another thing is the eye. We talk about the eyes, not blinking too much. A lot of time when an actor don't know their lines, they're blinking a lot because they're thinking, so they're trying to think of their next moment, or you can tell they're not confident behind their eyes. But when you know what you're talking about, you're able to look directly at the other actor without blinking, and now people can take you in.
Neat. I have a kind of a follow-up question to that.
Okay.
The bread and butter of acting is memorizing lines. What is your best technique for memorizing lines?
So I have this exercise that the students love at McKinnon Studio. I have a 3-step process where I can teach you how to learn a whole scene in 10 minutes.
Wow.
10 minutes, right? So I take you through a process where, because everything is psychological, what I learned. It's psychological. And I'm going to prove my point. Look how fast people was learning TikToks. People who struggle learning lines, they knew how to say all them TikTok lines. They knew how to do all the dance moves, or even anyone watching it. If Beyonce comes out with a song tomorrow, you're going to know all the words the next day.
Yeah. People stay up.
So the exercise that I go through, I get the actors in the room, and what I do, I have them look at the script for 5 minutes. They get 5 minutes to look at it and read it. All right. And then I have them read it out loud to each other. Even when I'm preparing for a role, before I start memorizing, before I even start breaking down the character, I want to read it out with somebody. I want to hear the natural music of this scene. I want to hear the natural rhythm of the flow and the energy of the scene. Because then when I go study, I'm going in with the mindset of, okay, this is how it's going to go. Because that's how real life is. We don't practice how we're going to have a conversation with the person in the room with us, right? We just have it. So I wanted to see how that would go when I'm reading the scene. So I have the actors sit back to back. They read it out loud just to hear the natural flow. Then I have them put this script away, and I say, improv your way through the scene. Because if you improv yourself through the scene, now you're showing yourself, okay, this is what my brain comprehended and was able to pick up about the beginning, middle, and end of the scene. I may not know all the lines, but I kind of know the rhythm of the scene, and I know how to get through it. Next thing you know, I let them look at it for 1 more minute. They look at it to clean up any moments they may have missed in their improv moment. And then I have them sit face to face and take each other in. And then I have them do it as a top secret conversation. By the time you finish those 3 steps, those actors like literally are maybe like 80% to 100% off the book. Where they know the scene, beginning, middle, and end, they're able to have a real conversation. Because you think all them actors that you watch on TV are saying every word for word? No, they're just flowing naturally. Yeah, they're staying on it as much as possible, but there's your own little knacks and twists and your slang that you put to it that helps make the words your words.
That's very cool.
And then my last question was, in the next 5 years, in the next 15 years, what do you want to have accomplished?
I always dreamed of being a premier film studio. What I mean, or film TV studio. Like I want to have a hub where, there's a lot of people who do independent films and they do, the web series, right? But what do they do on the highest level when it comes to these big projects, right? There's a lot of people who go to Tyler Perry Studios who are not doing his projects, who use his studio space to film movies, right? Screen gems, right? People going to these places. Even when Beep was here, they were filming at this big warehouse in Columbia. So I want it to be a hub for independent films where I want to own a space where literally there's so many different sets built within it that people can come to McKinnon's world and hire a studio and use the studio space, and they can have a living room set in there. They can have an office. They have all these spaces in there to film their projects. So that's something that's definitely on my vision board, something that I would love to have as I build towards it, which would be great. Even for myself, I would love to see myself as a series regular on the show where, that's what I do. I love TV. I love the style of acting on TV, so I would love to book a nice series regular role on a TV show.
So Mark, what would that look like in terms of if you book a series regular and it's in New York, does that mean that you're commuting Monday through Friday?
Oh, not commuting. The series regular, you gotta be there because when you're doing series regular, just in TV in general, you're on set 12 to 15 hours a day.
Okay.
And if you're a series regular, you're doing that 5 days a week for 9 months.
Oh, okay.
That is your life.
Yeah.
So you're on set 15 hours, then you go home to study for the next day to be back on set again for another 15 hours.
Yeah, that's a commitment. Yeah. But I love your vision about, the hub studio. So what do you think you would need for that?
Funding, a lot of it, we get there, because we got the studio to a place where it's running and we're doing very well, but I want to get it to a place to where we literally can make that type of investment where I can own or at least lease out a major warehouse space. Because once I have a space like that, then from there we can build what we need to build from there. So we're going to start it on a smaller scale. So my 2-year plan is started on a smaller scale, and then go from there.
Do you think that there's enough support in the DMV, like from, say, the Maryland Film Office, the Virginia Film Office, DC, to really support the acting scene here in the DMV?
I definitely do. I haven't tapped into it as much as I know I should, but because of my relationships with a lot of filmmakers in the area, and I'm seeing the funding that they're getting to make their films, for instance, like Megamind, I know they have like a really great relationship with the DC Film Office, and there's a couple of other companies, but the funding is there. It's just a matter of positioning yourself and having the right business plan and strategy and results to show them why they should invest into what you're doing.
So what do you think would take the DMV being like more of a destination place for TVs and film?
I mean, it's starting to get there now because of the films that are starting to be produced out of this area. It just takes more people just taking a shot in the DMV area to shoot here. I mean, it's happening. There's so many more movies now starting to film and shoot. Like even Wonder Woman Part 2 shot here. One of my clients was in that movie, and they shot it right here in DC. So, there's a lot of projects that are starting to come here now. One of the things, though, is the whole tax break laws. This is why a lot of people stop filming in Maryland, though, because it becomes more expensive to shoot here in the DMV area. That's why a lot of people film in Georgia, or they do New Orleans or whatever, because they get big tax breaks for if they film in there.
Yeah. I think, Isaiah, you had something.
Yeah, so we have another question from a viewer from Malika Starr. She's wondering, how does someone sign up for Mark McKinnon Acting Studio?
What's up, Malika? Yes, you are a star. You can sign up for McKinnon Acting Studio by visiting mckinnonactingstudio.com. We have our site built where it's very easy to follow, where you can choose all the different options that we have and that we offer, whether you want private one-on-one coaching with myself, or whether you want to take group classes and learn amongst other actors. All those options are there. Right now, everything is being done virtually right now because my space is not back open yet due to the COVID pandemic. However, you're still getting all the knowledge that you need. You're getting all the information that you need.
Sorry, go ahead, Isaiah.
And I also had a question kind of towards that. So I wanted to know, what is like the ideal way to break into the acting industry? Does your studio take people that have never acted before? Do people typically go to college, or do people just pop in one day? How does that work?
Yeah, so we don't do walk-ins. However, we do specialize in helping beginners. We have a whole class called the Character Scene Study course that helps actors who've never had training, or whether they had little to no training. This 4-week course is designed to literally teach you all the foundational principles of what you need to know about the business of acting and how to break down a character and how to mark your script. So by the end of those 4 weeks, you now know how to go about being an actor. You'll know where to find auditions, you know how to act on camera, all those things. And then you get advanced to our advanced class. Now you're really learning how to be pushed and how to really go deeper into understanding your characters and applying the techniques that we teach.
What do you estimate is how much someone should have or expect to pay to get started?
At our studio? We have different options, whether it's private coaching. If you're doing like a half an hour session, they start off as low as $35. And then we have career consultation that can be all the way up to $80 for the session. Then we have our group classes. They range about, for our character scene study course, 4 classes for only $100. Like, that's super low. People like, why are your prices so low? That's what God told me to do, because when I was a starving artist, if I paid $300-$400 for an acting class, or for a month of it, after I did that once, that was it. I had to wait 6 months again before I could do that again. So I was like, no, I wanted to get it to a place where it's affordable, where you can continue to train, because that was my vision, to get actors to continue to train. I think that's why so many students continue to be at our studio. Some people have been rocking with us for 3 or 4 years now. Some people longer, like Ms. Diane, right? Because the prices, they're at a price where when you're ready to train, you can do it. It's not too much out of your pockets.
Yeah, that $100, that's a good price for
4 classes.
4 classes. Yeah, that's amazing. Yeah. So who do you recommend, or do you have someone that you recommend for the headshots, because they are so important?
It's so many. It's a long list. It's so many different people. I mean, you have like Clinton B Photography, Jeremy Bustin, you got Zillan Leach Photography. I mean, it's so many. It's all about your budget, you know. But we always tell people that's one of the best investments you can make is your headshot because that's your number one calling card.
And if you're just getting started, what's a reasonable amount to pay for that?
I mean, there's no reasonable amount. I mean, I would say the range would be around anywhere between 250 to 500. You normally don't need to do more than 500, especially when you're first starting out. And you normally want to not go too much lower than like that 200, 250 range because you want to make sure your headshots are of value, you know, that you're investing into a headshot photographer. Just because you have a friend who has a good camera does not mean it's going to be a good headshot. All right. Like when I was getting married, we was going through the wedding planning process. I was telling my wife, like, hey, listen, I got people who got a camera. We don't need to spend all these thousands of dollars on videography. And she's like, no, Mark, this is why we're getting a wedding photographer because they specialize in capturing moments for a wedding. There's an art to it. So it's the same thing with headshots. You want to go to a headshot photographer because they specialize in taking shots that fits the actor's needs.
Right. Yeah, just getting an idea of how much to expect to pay. You know,
Candy, can I make a comment?
$50. Yeah, go ahead.
I just want to call out and acknowledge that I've heard Mark in several instances express being receptive to what he hears and learns from his wife, and it is just so powerful to hear him as a beautiful, accomplished man. Give credit and acknowledge that he's learning from his wife.
Absolutely. I agree. It's a beautiful thing to see. And Sean, I think you saw it too, the proposal video. That was just like, heart melting.
Yeah, we had fun with that. Yeah, that was a fun moment. I finally caught her off her feet because she's good at figuring things out. She could not figure that one out at all. So I pat myself on the back for keeping her surprised on that one.
As well you should, because that was a good surprise. And
thank you.
It was a really nice moment. Isaiah had another question.
So we got a question from sorry, give me 1 second. Okay, so we got a question from Candy Powerable. How many films, etc., should an actor have under their belt before joining SAG-AFTRA?
SAG-AFTRA, yep. That's the union for actors. What's up, Ms. Diane? So I always tell people you want to stay non-union as long as possible until you have to join SAG. So there's a rule called the Taft-Hartley rule. The Taft-Hartley rule states that as a non-union actor, you can work on up to 3 union projects without having to join. Right? So I always tell actors, work those 3 union projects. And then when it's time to join, do you join? Because it costs $3,000 to join. You know,
wow.
So you want to make sure. I'm a member of SAG, proud member. SAG is great. Phenomenal benefits. It's a great community, great union for actors. However, if you join too soon, it's like joining the right relationship at the wrong time. All right. So you really make sure that you are positioning yourself by getting as many non-union and union projects as you can until you get those 3 union projects. So yeah, there's actors who have a whole resume full of credits and they're not union yet, you know. So it's all about once you get there real and once you exhaust the Taft-Hartley rule, but don't force it.
Isaiah, there was another question.
Yeah.
I guess a similar
question. Yep. I'll answer that from Miss Cynthia. What's up? That's another family member. I always say there's 3 things you want to have in place when it comes to joining SAG. One, you want to make sure you already have a 2-minute actor reel, something that really shows the market what you can do, shows your range. Number 2 is also Taft-Hartley rule like we just talked about. And then number 3, you should already have an agent or manager in bigger markets like LA, New York, or Atlanta who's already sending you out. Because it's very hard as a union actor to try to find union jobs on your own. They're out there, but the ones that you can find on your own are not like always going to be the major projects that you want to really be on. So you got to really make sure that you have an agent or manager who's already sending you on those projects. Once you have those 3 things in place, then I think that'll be a good time for you to get, to join the union, because then you've exhausted all those options.
And just to be clear, once you join the union, you're not allowed to take non-union jobs. Is that correct?
That is correct. That is correct. Yeah.
Okay. Now, what has been your favorite role so far?
The last one I just did, which was the BET Her film that I did called Like, Comment, Subscribe, October 17th. I love the character because he went on a nice journey. It's a story of love. It's a story of a couple fighting together who faced a really, really trying time when my fiance has stage 3 breast cancer. So it was a really, really great role to play, but I also got to be directed by Cheryl Lee Ralph. You know, she was directing it. So that was an amazing opportunity and just an amazing just film to be a part of. So I can't wait till everyone sees it because it's a beautiful story. And you know, it's the first time in a long time that I was able to play like an emotional role like that, to go on a journey.
Nice. Yeah, I look forward to seeing that and The Available Wife, because that's not out just yet, correct?
The Available Wife is going to premiere at the American Black Film Festival. And since because of COVID, they're going to do it online. So in order to see all the movies at American Black Film Festival, they're going to. I'm not sure how they're doing it this year, but you can get access to it through their site.
Okay.
For Available Wife. Yep.
Well, Mark, I want to thank you so much for being with us today. It's been a pleasure speaking with you about your career. We're just so excited and happy for you, both for yourself and what you're doing for your students and your clients. We can't wait to see what else you have in store.
No, I really appreciate you all asking me to join your show. You guys are phenomenal. I love the questions. I love your energy. Like, this is great what you all are doing here. I don't know who's doing the switching and everything, but you on point. I'm like, oh, like they. I learn this. This is pretty amazing, and I'm just really honored to be on here with you all and to get to meet you all through this platform.
Well, definitely gonna be sending some people your way. Definitely at the end of it, I'm definitely gonna play that reel one more time because just like people that didn't see it from the beginning and the middle. So
okay, absolutely. And shout out to Kelvin. I see Kelvin on here. I see a couple of folks on here. Thank y'all for supporting.
Absolutely.
Candy, you want to take us out?
Okay, well, we're going to look at we're going to watch the reel one more time, and you all, go and check out Mark's video, Mark's website, his social media. He is doing amazing things. People are getting booked left and right. So again, we're very excited for him, and to see more of our episodes or to hear our past episodes for the podcast, please visit www.poestry.net. That's POESTRY. Thank you all for being here, and we look forward to our next event. Take care and good night.
What do we got? Vic is a white male in his 50s found this morning by a jogger. Wife, kids, and a nanny will sleep in an apartment. His name is Felix Raw.
Like the photographer?
Beats me. His wife's upstairs. You can ask her if he takes pictures.
Look, we got this. Can you give us a hand with the crowd?
Yeah, you got it. Eddie, hey. All right, everybody just back it up.
Please.
Hey, you good? I'm good. Go. Hey, police, stop. Eddie. He's hit. Go bust. Hey. 10-13 officer down. Consist fire. Folks, sit down.
You okay?
We lost a guy today.
Oh, man, who?
Michaels.
Michaels? Damn. You gonna be okay?
3 nines and Joker's wild. 4 of a kind. Must be my lucky night.
Stop or I will fire! I said stop or I will fire!
Call for backup.
Show me your hands! Show me your hands!
Okay, what the hell's going on?
I'm dead.
Good?
Good. The room is clear.
Not so very hard.
What do you think's in there? What say you open it up, stick your head in, and take a gander?